Carlos Nelson with Cascade Sports, and tonight we have another home. I think we got going on like Motown, the hit parade, and we got our hit parade of our local coaches that have added value to quite a bit of the student athletes that you've seen on our programs. And this is a special for me to have this gentleman here because over the last 3 months, we've done so many athletes, especially girl athletes and women athletes. And it seemed like quite a few of them have had a foundation coming from Della C. Lamb. They call Della here. And we have one of the main influences of most of these girls that have come on our show. Who do we have here?
Maurice Harvey.
Hey, Coach. First of all, before you say anything, let me congratulate you on how the girls talk about your program down there at the Della. And what I'd like you to do is talk to our audience, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, how long you've been coaching, and how long you've been coaching down there at Della.
Okay, well, about myself, grew up in East Cleveland, Ohio, played high school basketball up there, led the state in, three-pointers, did real good in basketball there.
Hold on, let me cut you off, Coach. I went to Central State University.
Okay.
Hey, bro, I used to hang out up in Cleveland. I'd be up in Shaker Heights. That was back in the 70s, baby boy.
Kennedy, that was our rivalry. That was still our rivalry.
Yeah, Kennedy and all of them schools up there.
Most definitely.
Oh, yeah. And even when I got out of college, I used to fly up there at least 2 or 3 times a month. Let you know I know what's going on. And homie, go to CascadeSports.tv. Look at our Cleveland. My boy was doing what we were doing here.
Oh, okay.
Cleveland. Now go ahead and run it down.
Yeah, so I played in East Cleveland at Shaw High School, and then being from the inner city, I didn't really take my grades seriously, so I went the junior college route. Played up in Minnesota. And, they wanted me to play up there at this school called Vermilion Community College. And when I got there, I started my first game, scored 18 points, 7 assists.
What position?
And never played. I played shooting guard there. But after the first game, didn't play again until they wanted us to win. Now, you want to know why? Because we had a prejudiced coach. We ended up having a prejudiced coach.
I wanted to ask you, hold it. I keep breaking in, but when you said Minnesota, I was getting ready to break in and say, what was that like?
You know what? The first year, terrible. Had to get used to the winners, even though I was from Cleveland. But the second year, loved it to death. It's the best thing ever. Best thing ever.
Go ahead and run it down.
So, after my first year, he didn't want to play me until, they wanted to win. But I could have quit. But I didn't. And what happened the following year? They got rid of him. Got a new coach, averaged over 20-something a game, led the state of Minnesota in three-pointers. And I did real good my second year up there. And then after that, I stayed another following year just to get my associate. And then after that, after I got my associate, I was an assistant coach for the women basketball team there. So after playing basketball there, I went right into coaching.
You've coached women all and girls all your life, or
No, I actually coached boys too. That was what I started with when I was up here, was boys.
All right, and so was that a 4-year institution?
That was a 2-year. Then I went on to go to a college called Ohio Dominican to finish there.
Where's that located?
Columbus, Ohio.
Up in Columbus?
It's right next to Ohio State.
Oh, all right. Run that down. What was those years like? How did you play, and what did you learn? Talk about what you learned from the coaches during your rise through sports, because I think that's important, where you learn a lot of your skill set.
Exactly. Even starting with high school, I had one of the, you can call, meanest coaches you can, work with. And a lot of great players didn't even want to play for him. So they didn't. But I always told myself, if I could play for him, I could play for anybody. So being able to play for him, when I got yelled at by other coaches, it didn't bother me.
So how did you finish up your last 2 years?
Well, my last 2 years, I went up to Ohio Dominican, and I went out for the team because I had took a year off, and a whole bunch of stuff was going on there. So then I was just like, you know what? I didn't want to finish. I didn't want to play anymore. Even though I still love the game, I just didn't want to play anymore.
Well, did you get your degree there?
I didn't get my degree, but I did go on and finish my degree with my bachelor's in business.
Where'd you go?
At University of Phoenix.
Oh, all right. That's what's up. So, have you coached in high school at all?
No.
All right. So let's get where the tire meets the road. Let's get down to Della. All right. So, talk about your beginning at Della, the first years that you were there, and what was the philosophy, what was the mission, and what kind of program, when you came to Della, what kind of program did they have? And I know I'm going a couple of things, and what kind of girls were they working with? And if you forget, I'll remind you.
Okay, well, when we first went to Della, it was myself, Dave Bennett, and Betty Bennett. And right there alone, we was always a family as coaches. There was never one head coach. We was all head coaches. So whenever something went down, we always just met together and we decided what was right for our team. So when we got to Della, the girls was probably in 6th grade, because we started as the Matrix. And the Matrix was a good team. We did real good as the Matrix. And then when we went over to Della, probably when the girls was in 6th grade, that's when everything blew up. And our whole goal with working with girls was to teach them everything we could teach them. But our main goal was to get them into college. And that was the only goal we ever had for every girl we ever coached. So, and throughout Della, from the beginning to the end, it was always about college and not really about basketball.
So run what that program was like, because they talked about I was like, how was all these men molding women and young ladies? Because that's what the ones that we interviewed talked about, because we talk about after basketball and what do you like to do besides basketball and what's important in life. And I'm wondering, where did they get those? Well, I know where they got them from. According to them, they got them out of Della, but I don't know who was doing what, how the pot was being chopped up as it relates to, hey, when the girl comes to Della, what's the procedure?
Well, whenever we brought girls on our team, we never sugarcoat anything. We let them know everything up front, what we expected and what we needed out of every one of them. And if they had any questions, they always was able to come to us with any questions. Or if they wanted to do something different, they could come to us. Even during games, if they see something we didn't see, you can come to us. And that's a lot different from other coaches, that coaches wouldn't want that from their kids, but we allowed that because they're on the court. So they see things that
you
we
let them
might
help
not see.
manage from the bottom up. Most of the time it's from the top down.
Right.
And you miss some things.
Yep. and we never had an ego. The coaches never had an ego. So a player can come to us and be like, "Hey, coach, I see this, this, and that," and we'd be like, "Okay, so what do you think we can do at this point?" And if they tell us something, we'll roll with that. And 9 times out of 10 is exactly what they said. So that was always our philosophy when we coached girls, was to not to belittle them, to listen to everything they had to say to us.
What are some of the names that have some cachet about themselves that you remember, that you know that you had involvement in building their character in their game?
But you know, it's so many out of the 10 years. But the one thing I can say, out of of all the girls we coach, everyone went on to play basketball except 3.
How
And
many?
you know, the other 3 went on academic scholarships.
How many would you say that's gone through the system?
Whew.
Just give a number. We ain't gonna hold you to it, but to give our audience a idea of how many lives have been affected.
I'm gonna say if we had 150, 147 went on to play college basketball, and that's from JUCO to Division I.
That's an impressive record.
And we took pride in that.
Let's talk about some other things. Funding for programs. Run that down. Tell our audience what that's like, trying to create a program like yours.
And it's funny you mentioned that.
Funding and facility usage.
It's funny you mentioned that. When we was the Matrix, before we went to Della, which myself, Coach Betty, and Coach David, we used to hustle on the corners of like the plaza, holding up signs for donation, letting everybody know that we're a competitive team and we're trying to go out of town to bring back a championship to Kansas. We used to do car washes. We used to sell potato chips, candy, trash bags. And that's always how we got funded at the beginning. We hustled for everything. So they appreciated everything when we first started. And that's with boys too. That's how we always did everything before we was able to get,
What kind of parent participation did you have?
One thing I could say with the Matrix and Della, we always had good parents with our teams.
How important is that for young athletes to have that behind them?
It's real important. It's real important. And because they want their parents to see what they do. But at the same time, while coaching, if the parents wasn't there, we always had, like I always keep bringing them up, Coach Betty, she was their mother. So she wouldn't let them go without anything. So if they needed something, I don't care if it was tennis shoes, a jacket, a hat, money, food, she was there for the kids.
And that's what good programs have from the urban core. And as I try to tell our community especially, because we need to look to ourselves for support. And when you have good programs, if you only can give that program $5, give them the $5.
Exactly.
Because they are not just playing sports, they're creating winners in our community.
Exactly.
In, more ways than one. And that's why I was really anxious to learn a little more about who actually was creating these girls with a lot of character and morals and things. And I can tell, Miss Nelson can tell on what your conversation is. And those girls that we it was like, young ladies. Anyone, a dad, a mom would be proud to say that, seen that interview, that was my daughter.
And that was our goal. Every year we always had team building throughout the year. Always. That was one of our number one priorities, to have team building.
So what's happening down there in 221, 220? What's going on with the program now?
Well, this year I didn't coach with Della. So, but they season just in it, and I know they had a decent year. So
Are you
it's
still
still going
coaching?
good. No, I'm not coaching as of now. I took this year off.
All right. All right. So what do you have to say to parents that have young athletes? I usually ask my coaches to talk to the young athlete, what they should do. Talk to the parents.
Terrence, if you let your kids follow their dreams, if a kid come to you and say, mom and dad, I want to try out for basketball, even if they're not good, because every player that came to us wasn't good. They wasn't good at all.
That was what I don't know, that girl was like an All-American. That's what she said. She said, I think she was in the 6th or 7th grade, and she said, Della got my game right. I didn't have no game.
And you know who that girl was? That was my daughter.
Oh, I didn't know, but I remember her statements.
Right, that was my daughter.
But she just wasn't the only one. A couple of them said,
"Yep,
hey, I got there. I didn't really have no game. I wanted to play, but
right.
I didn't have no game. But when
that's
I left,
and that's the thing I liked about Della with Tony Woods and Maurice down there, is that anytime girls needed help, I don't care if it's on a Sunday night, Monday morning, a holiday, they'll come down there and open the gym to put in work with the girls that wanted to put in work. So I think that helped our girls. And another thing, we're one of the top 21 teams that Adidas sponsored. And do you know we're the only rec team that was in the Adidas 21 top team?
Mm.
So that tells you about Della right there. We're a rec team, and we can compete with the best. So we take pride in that.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on the show. And is there any closing words that you would have for our athletes, our coaches, or fans of Kansas City girls and women's basketball?
But I can say this. A lot of girls went through Della, but during like the off season, we would go over to Diaperdan with Terry Moore, and all our girls would play like different positions because Terry allowed them to play positions that they didn't play at Della. So now they're learning to up their game. So when they go to the next level, if you playing a 3, now you know how to shoot a 3-pointer. Or if you're playing a 4, you know how to shoot a 3-pointer, or you know how to dribble up the court. So nothing wrong with working with other coaches, because a lot of our girls, that's how they develop different skills while playing.
Speaking on that, boy, this interview's going. Do you feel, I always say, coaches talk about team play, but they're the worst team players in the world when you try to bring them together. And I didn't know that you brought your girls over to Diaperdan and more.
During the summer, during the off season, we would go over to Diaperdan and play the rest of the fall in different tournaments with Diaperdan.
All right. And so what else were you doing to build that character and build that skill set?
Well, everything was, anytime they needed help with anything, they could come to us. Anytime they had a problem, they can come to us. Anytime they needed anything, they can come to us.
But what are you saying to the parents as it relates to the financial obligations that go along with that?
Luckily, being with Della and being one of the top 21 teams with Adidas, we're sponsored. But Della still teach them that you still have to hustle. So we do a lot of fundraising. So even being sponsored, we still do a lot of fundraising so we can do other things when we're places. So meaning like go to amusement park, go eat at nice places, things like that. Best hotels, everything.
Hey, Coach, and that's super important for our kids to experience that, because when you come from the urban core, this is just the facts. Some of our kids ain't never left their neighborhood.
Exactly.
They go to school, might go to the plaza, but I'm talking about they ain't never went nowhere. When they get a chance to play sports and see a little something, that can be the spark that lights the light to get them moving forward in life.
Exactly. And that's why when we travel, we try to put them in places they've never been before, so they can see is other things outside of where they live at. So that's part of our program too. We want them to see things so they can work hard to have these things when they grow up.
I want to close out with this, Coach. I want to ask you a personal question, because
Okay.
I know Mr. Nelson is like a gangster posing as a businessman. How hard is it for you and you think coaches to try to be the best that they can be that example, but still be human? Because I know all the stuff I've done, and I wouldn't want that I'm frankly ashamed of when I was young.
Right.
I've never asked any coaches, and I've never talked about that, but I know that's a struggle with myself even now. Do you want to be associated with this person, or do you run that down?
And see, I'm glad you brought that up, because the coaching staff with us, one thing about us, we don't sugarcoat nothing. We'll tell a girl we stole before, we did this, we did that, we did this, but that's not the route we want you to do, because there is consequences.
Right.
And we don't want you to go with them consequences. But at the same time, we had no problem letting them know anything that we've been through in life, because we're trying to correct. We don't want them to go the same route we went. So it wasn't nothing we heard from our girls.
You know what? I think that probably was a key essential in why I feel the way I feel about them girls, because how they got personal about their stories.
Mm-hmm.
See, a lot of us be fake as a $3 bill.
Correct.
You see us shining on Facebook or social media, be miserable inside.
Right.
Those girls weren't miserable. Those girls were grounded in this is what it is,
And they all stood good friends after Della Lamb basketball.
Yeah. As I said, y'all might have been building basketball stars, but from my like we say, Cascade Sports is home to student athlete. I thought y'all were building character down there. The hell with basketball, because that's what I was taking out of the interviews of the girls that they were interested in the basketball, but not to the point that it exceeded their education and what they wanted to get out of life.
Right. And basketball always came second. We were trying to build them as a person first, and then basketball.
Well, Coach, as we always say in closing, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Also, exactly. We say, when it comes to the sport of basketball, Cascade Sports, we go hard in the paint. And I mean, we go hard.
This program is brought to you by the City of Fountains Coaches Association.